Now I want to talk a little bit about the respiratory system. We will look at some drawings together in a moment, but first I want to go over a few things about the respiratory system. As you know, it works with the circulatory system to bring oxygen into our bodies when we breathe in and carbon dioxide waste out when we breathe out. The main thing I wanted to demonstrate with you is how our lungs work with a large muscle at the bottom, across the bottom of the lungs called the diaphragm. This is a muscle under the lungs that allows us to breathe in and out. You might think that the lungs do their own movement of in and out, but they don't. The lungs don't move themselves at all. It's simply this muscle that opens up space for the air to come in and then closes it up when we breathe out. And so I'm going to back up and show you how actually the diaphragm, let's pretend it's lower down on your chest. When we breathe out, the diaphragm actually relaxes like this, kind of curls up. And when we breathe in, we're actually pushing that muscle down. So we breathe out, we breathe in, pushes the muscle down. There's no other muscle that makes us breathe, only this one large muscle in our chest pushing down and then relaxing. And now I want to show you a demonstration that we usually do in class, and you can make this if you wanted to, but I'm going to show you what I use as a demonstration in class, and then we're going to answer some questions about it in the workbook on page 14.4a. But let me show you how it works. This is the demonstration that I have. This is a bottle. This is a bottle that was some kind of soda. This is a liter bottle, and it's empty. And I cut off the bottom, and then this is just some kind of a plastic wrap on the bottom held in place by a rubber band. You can see how it's held in place. I also put a little tape on the bottom so I have something to pull on, and I'll show you how that works in a minute. And then in the top I have a balloon that hasn't been blown up, and it's pushed inside. The outer part represents the rib cage, the cavity that the lungs are in, and the balloon represents the lungs, and the plastic represents the diaphragm. Now watch what happens when I push the diaphragm or this plastic up. When I push it up, watch what happens. Let me back up to the balloon. When I push up, the balloon collapses. That's when we breathe out. When we breathe in, that diaphragm is going to pull down and the balloon expands. So we breathe out, the diaphragm's up, relaxed. We breathe in, we push that diaphragm down, and the lungs expand and take the air in. So I think that's kind of a neat little model. If you ever wanted to make it, it'll show you how the lungs work with the diaphragm. So now let's look at our workbook page 14.4a as we answer some questions about that. Okay, thank you. Before we do the workbook page together, I just wanted to briefly go over these diagrams with you to show you how the whole respiratory system works together. This page simply shows two lungs. Here's one on this side and one on this side. But this lung is breathing in, it's inhaling. This side is breathing out, it's exhaling. And when we're breathing in, you can see this diaphragm here is pushed down. It's called contracted, it's pushed down. And this diaphragm over here, when we're breathing out, is relaxed. So when we're breathing in, it's pushed down. When we're breathing out, it's relaxed. Okay, let's look at another page together quickly. Now, I don't expect you to know all of these words for the test, but it's good to know them for the future. The way the respiratory system works is here we have the pharynx, and that's where our air comes in our nose, in that area, nose, mouth, that area goes down there. It then goes through down to the trachea, which is our windpipe. into the bronchial tubes. And these are the tubes. There's one on this side, and you can't really see it the way the drawing is, but there's also one on this side where it splits into two. And the air goes into our lungs from there. And then, of course, this is a lung drawing. And then up here is the epiglottis. And that is where we swallow. That's where there's a little epiglottis closes when we're swallowing food and opens when we're breathing. And then we have the larynx. And that's where our voice box is. And that's how we speak with the air coming through. One thing I wanted to talk about here is the alveoli. And these are not something you need to know right now, but they're little tiny grape-like parts of the lungs. And they actually are the place where the oxygen and the carbon dioxide trade places in the blood. Very interesting to study about the alveoli. Probably you'll study more about them next year. And then, of course, here we have the diaphragm. Here's our diaphragm, which is going to be relaxed when we're breathing out and pushed down when we're breathing in. And then finally now, let's go to our workbook page. And I hope you can do this with me if you have your workbook page ready. Okay, this is talking about the model that I made with the balloon and the liter bottle. Okay, on the basis of the breathing model you designed, complete the exercises below. What does the balloon represent? Do you remember what the balloon represents? The lungs. That was the lungs. Okay, what does the bottle represent? Remember that outside case of the bottle? That represents the chest. So do these with me. Think about them yourself though. What does the bag stretched over the bottom of the bottle represent? What did that plastic over the bottom represent? That was the diaphragm. Now watch how funny that word is spelled. Diaphragm. Because it's a silent G, we don't say fragum. Diaphragm. Okay, that's what was going up and down the plastic bag. Number 4, what happens to the balloon when you push up on the bag? The balloon, or this is also representing the lung, collapses. It's shrunk up. Number 5, what happens to the balloon when you pull down on the plastic bag? Do you remember what happened to the balloon when we pull down? The balloon or the lung, it inflated. It inflates. Number 6, the diaphragm helps the respiratory system. To what body system does the diaphragm belong? What body system do you think? Skeletal, circulatory? Actually, the diaphragm is part of the muscular system. Circle the answer that best completes the sentences below. When I inhale, my diaphragm, now I'm breathing in, my diaphragm pulls down. And when I exhale, my diaphragm relaxes or pushes up. It goes up, it relaxes. Okay, thank you. That's our workbook page. And I hope you understand a little bit more about the respiratory system. Thank you.